Speaking, the idea that men exert power over women is nonsense. Mr. Nolan's solicitor, Simon Henthorne, said Eton College reported the lecture to the TRA, which considered charges of undermining tolerance and failing to safeguard students. From what? From what? Might their feelings have been hurt for a few minutes? How terrible. How awful. That must be so tragic. Did you learn something in school today that upset you? Do you need a wee shoulder to cry on? I'll book you in with a psychiatrist tomorrow. That must have been awful. You weak motherfucker.
Sydney yesterday morning and found a person that should be there, wasn't there. That person was spoken to by police, stated that he'd hopped in his car and went out for some fresh air. The point is that if you are going to behave like this, yesterday over 2,300
I just hate
houses visited. If you're going to behave like this, if you're going to step outside the health orders, you will be checked on and you will get an infringement notice, and that person will continue to be checked on and make sure that they comply.
I'm working on getting some of my family members possible asylum here. I'm not joking. I'm immigrating them because this is this is worse than China.
Petition to move Sydney's family and Kez's family to the United States, because like mine won't move.
Mine want to move.
Mine don't. Well, they do, but they don't. And I'm just getting so mad because my dad is the one. Dad, I love you to pieces. If you watch this, you're my favorite person. But if, for God's sake, man, let the country go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Come to Texas.
Come to Texas, you know, because they keep going, oh, but Sydney, like America's, you know, yeah, it is actually.
Not like that, though.
But it's not like that. We're not on this level. People need to realize that Australia has so much psycho legislation in place that's been in place because basically they pass this emergency legislation, they never repeal it. They never, you know, get rid of it. So basically, there are so many things in place in Australia. If people are interested, go look into this stuff, especially the terrorism legislation that's in place. You have no rights, Aussies.
We're getting into that next week.
You got no rights.
We're getting into that
because it's
developing, and I don't want to get into that today.
Now you made me mad and upset.
No, but it's true. And also, too, New Zealand's not far off. Listen to this.
New
Video 10.
Psycho as well.
Jacinda.
She's a psychopath.
She's also a bitch.
She's a
just
bitch,
like
yeah,
Dan
she
Andrews.
sucks.
Don't censor that one either, Savannah.
She sucks.
Let's go. They just had to say it. I'm sorry. You know what? It's like Alex Jones said. I know people don't like cursing, but there's a time and a place for it. And it is when tyrants take over.
Yeah,
and when they show
exactly.
themselves. Listen to Jacinda, who also took away your guns in New Zealand. This is what they want to put here.
Local, and do not congregate. Don't talk to your neighbours. Please keep to your bubbles. It comes down again to those very simple principles. We know from overseas cases of the Delta variant that it can be spread by people simply walking past one another.
No, that's not
so
a
keep
thing.
Those movements outside.
This is Elijah.
They're just making stuff up.
They make stuff up. That is not.
Yeah, don't talk to each
asymptomatic
other.
Spread is not a thing. You can't pass shit by just passing
And in the
each
air,
other.
it's so negligible that it's considered like not real. And it's so funny because that's what you know is that they're like, you know, you can't drink alcohol outside, Dan Andrews said, and oh, you can't do this. Like they're not even following the science. They've just fully taken over. And this is so sad because this is supposed to be beacons of hope. This is supposed to be Western countries. This is where we're at as a nation. And this is why we have to understand that this is what's going on, and this is what they're trying to import to the United States. This is a one world government trying to take over the entire world. They have this idea in their head. We've been warning you about this for years. Other people that have more grovelly voices have been telling you even a little bit longer. But I'm going to tell you, you got to wake up and understand that you have to resist, and now's the time. That's why you die on this hill. You die on this hill. This is the hill to die on, and we're not giving in. That's why even with the mask mandates here, we won. Hallelujah. The court struck it down, even though the school districts are still fighting. I noticed when I went into stores now, I've changed. When they offer me a mask, I have stopped saying mean things. I get into their personal space now.
Mm-hmm.
I walk up to them and I stare them in the eyes, and they get like interest, like they're like kind of like, why are you like looking at you like, why are you in my personal space? And it's like, because you're trying to get into mine.
Yeah.
So let me just enter yours for a second. You're
Yeah.
uncomfortable? Good, so am I.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't say anything because it's like, and that, what can you do? And I'm not threatening them. You just step in up to them and stare them down, and they just go like, oh shit.
They're
And
like,
people
"What
are
is
realizing, because it's not because everyone's like, oh, well, you're being a little snowflake because it's about masks. No, it's about that. That's where it heads. Oh, you're complaining. It's one city. No, it's multiple countries who are part of the fight Five Eyes of intelligence. That's where it heads. That's why I'm resisting. It's not because I'm a little bitch that won't wear a mask, which I won't anyways. Call me a little bitch. It's because I don't want that. And Savannah's there. Anytime masks come on, Savannah already gets there. Like,
I know. I'm like, my favorite thing to do when people ask me if I want to wear a mask is ask them why.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, because the government said so.
Yeah, exactly. There's
And I'm
never
like,
any good reason.
No.
I know that we're wrapping the show up, but I do want to say this to Aussies. I'm sorry for what's happening in your country right now. I am sorry. And I hope you guys will start fighting back. And I'm sorry for getting emotional, but I love you guys. Please try harder. Please do better. Fight the government. Screw the government.
Critical race theory says that race is a social construct used to oppress people of color. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of North Korean stuff lately. Of color.
You turn over stuff to the people who are relieving you. That's what you do. You have stuff and you say, hey, this is the stuff that I have. Now you have the stuff, right? That's what happens. That's what's supposed to happen literally every time because, keeping stuff is a good idea in a war zone. And if you don't believe that, I mean, you don't shoot me with my own gun. We'll go with that. Supposedly, the Taliban is now in possession of more Black Hawk helicopters than 165 other nations on planet Earth. Which is a lot. The Taliban had no air support a week ago. And now they do. Destroy in place, yes. For those of you who are unaware of what this is about, I personally was an artilleryman. Specifically, I was FDC. That doesn't mean anything to any of you, but it means that I pointed cannons, right? And so there are guys, they load cannons, they pull strings, that shoots stuff. I'm the guy that tells them where to shoot. My job, and this is unironically true, my job, if a firebase started to get overrun, was to grab the computer that did all of the computations for where to shoot artillery rounds and also contained just information about troops. Pull the pin in a grenade, put it in the computer, and close it. That was my job. Because you can't let them have this.
It seems so destructive.
Yeah.
To hurt a family.
Yeah. I mean, part of it, when at the point where Black Lives Matter said that we are trained Marxists, people should have listened to them.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say they should have shut him out. No, you're right. They should have listened to him.
They should have done that too.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm a big believer in worldview. Regardless of what it is, you should know what a person believes because that'll give you an understanding of why they believe what they believe. So when Marx talks about abolishing the family, because he understood that the family is not just where children, receive their moral instruction, but is also a vehicle for passing down private property. And he wanted to take the kids from their parents and dedicate them to the state, right? So Black Lives Matter, has a similar vision in their Black Villages principle. Before they took it off their website because they started to get a lot of heat for it, they talked about wanting to disrupt the nuclear family requirement that, requires mothers to do X, Y, and Z. At no point did they talk about fathers or husbands because in their world, those people don't exist. And that's why I would make the argument that, BLM is only interested in Black men to the extent that their, dead bodies help further their political goals. And that's not the type of organization that I would. There's under no circumstance would I, as a Black man, get behind any organization that says that they want to disrupt the nuclear family at all.
It will get to where China is, where we have like social credit score and all that nonsense. What? Why on earth? Like, no, seriously, tell me the situation where you really need to identify a person by his heartbeat. Oh God. How many? By the way, I'm really curious. Like, if you have this technology, if you implement it, and there's like cameras everywhere in the public space, and there's still a terrorist attack going on, there's still like a mass shooting going on, who's going to be responsible? Who's going to be fired for this? It's like, look, we gave you our rights for more safety, and you failed to provide it. You are the person that proposed this shit. So now you are the person that needs to not only get fired, but never work again. Like, any idea that comes out of your mouth needs to be rebuked instantly. And the politicians that support it should also resign. That's how a normal society would treat these people. The more we're like, okay, you know, you have a crazy idea, you have some batshit insane thing that we need to give our liberties for, you know, the right to privacy, we need to throw it away, fine. Let's have it your way. Let's have you do this. But if you fail, you're going to be held accountable. Just like an engineer is held accountable for building a bridge and then the bridge collapses. How about we do that to the ideologues? How about we call the ideologues from the academia all the way to the political advisors and the bureaucrats, to the politicians that support their ideas, accountable whenever one of their ideas ends up collapsing?
If Vosh looked now like he looked 5 years ago, I don't think he would be as an insufferable leftist. I could be wrong.
It's like, I know this sounds really mean, but you know how the events that me and you have been at where like left-wingers have been present, right? It was a mixed event. Have you not noticed how we were all hanging out and being bros? Well, a lot of them were like, even though they're all leftists, like they could have sat together. Instead, they were like sitting alone, and we had to like invite them over to like come. You're like, don't worry, we don't bite. We're talking about video games, not the Jewish questions.
Yeah,
come over and sit with us and have a beer. Don't worry, it's fine.